Hi there, welcome to a code tutorial walkthrough for the Django web application framework. I'm going to jump right into it. To find the Django project, you can just go search for it in a search engine. And the website for the Django project is djangoproject.com. So we want to get started. So let's go click on that. Alright, so depending on how new you are to Django, you can try a Django tutorial or just dive into the documentation. So I have used Django before, but I'm gonna go into it from a beginner's perspective. So let's try a tutorial. Okay. We'll assume you have Django installed already, which I don't. So I'm gonna go through the installation as well. So let's go click on this link and have it in a separate tab. We're gonna go ahead and install Django. So first you need to install Python. I do have Python installed, but I will assume that you know the Python programming language, so I'm not going to cover that part of it. You may want to set up a database. I'm going to skip that part. That part is optional. I'm going to go straight through installing Django. So you have three options to install Django. You can install the official release. This is the best approach for most users, so I'm just gonna go for that. Okay, so this is the recommended way to install Django. Looks like you just run this command. You need to install pip, but in the latest version of Python, I'm pretty sure pip comes out of the box with Python. So I will already have it. If not, then you can use the pip installer, which is inside of this link here. I'm gonna open up my terminal. I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and type in this command to install Django. I'm gonna bump up the font size a little bit more, actually. Okay, let's do python-m pip install Django. So it looks like the D is capitalized, so that might be important. I think package names are case sensitive. So it's downloaded about 8 megabytes worth of code, and some of the dependencies were already satisfied. That's fine. Okay, so I think I have installed Django. These are the alternative methods for installing Django, but I did the main one, so I'm gonna skip those. And at the end, I can verify that Django has been installed correctly by running a Python shell, importing Django, lowercase d this time, and then I can print the Django.get version to get the version number 4.0.2, which is slightly newer than when the author of this tutorial put this tutorial together. So also I will make a note that the tutorial that I am following today could go out of date at some point, but as you can see, I'm doing this based on Django 4.0 and Python version 3.9.2, and the date here is February 1st, 2022. Okay, so I think I have done the installation and I can move on to the tutorial. which was here. All right, I have two tabs, two open tabs for the same page. So I'll close one of them. All right. Yeah, that's what I just said. I guess now that I kind of did this backwards. I think I want to do an overview first, explaining what Django is. So let's read this. Why Django? With Django, you can take web applications from concept to launch in a matter of hours. So it allows you to develop dynamic web applications quickly. Ridiculously fast, I think that means the developer time is quick, not the performance is quick necessarily. Is fully loaded, secure, okay, scalable, versatile, etc. Okay, those are the selling points of Django. And Django is built on top of the Python programming language, and Python programming language is one of the most developer-friendly programming languages that I know, and in my opinion, the best programming language for teaching. Okay, let's just jump into this. Let's create a new Django project. So if this is your first time using Django, you have to take care of some initial setup. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. There's going to be a Django admin command that has been installed as the process of installing Django itself. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go into a directory called Playground, which is where I normally do any kind of play, programming play projects of all sorts. So they're saying we're gonna type a command Django admin start project my site, and it's going to create a my site directory in my current directory. I don't want to call it my site because I want to differentiate it from the other projects I have under this directory, of which there are many. So I'm actually gonna name it something that that helps me distinguish. So I'm gonna call this Django demo, or maybe Django tutorial. No, Django tutorial. How about that? It's not, oh, it doesn't like dashes. Okay, I'll do it underscore, Django underscore tut. And I think it did it. It didn't spit out anything, but it should have created a Django tut subdirectory. There it is. Okay, and here's the code. I'm going to use the Atom text editor. I don't need anything fancy. I just need something that's simple and free. Haha. So this is the code that it spit out. There looks like there's 6 Python files in total, and they have various roles in the web application, I'm sure. Let's keep going. Where should this code live? If your background is plain old PHP with no use of modern frameworks, you're probably used to putting all the code under server's document root. With Django, you don't do that. So this is like when you use a web server like Apache, there's this /var/www directory you put everything, all of your resources into. But with Django, you don't do that. Okay, so it created these files. That looks right. That's basically what I have over here. the outer my site root directory is a container for your project. Mine is actually called Django tut, not my site. So anywhere in the tutorial that says my site, I should mentally translate it to Django tut. Manage.py is a command line utility, which I find refreshing because I like the fact that this is like a command line tool that you run from the command line. Like you would do python manage.py and then you add various parameters such like run server. I believe that'll come later. What I like about this is that this script is, the contents of this script is shown to you so that it's not as mysterious as some other frameworks that I have seen. Execute from command line. Oh, okay. It's coming from this package here. So if you care to know more about the details of what this script is doing, you can dig into the source code inside this package. And then there's various files. I'm impatient and I'm just gonna skip ahead. Okay. Okay. So what it's telling me to do now is to just go ahead and run this command. So let's do that. I already saw it coming. So it says you have 18 applied migrations. I think that's actually okay. It doesn't say anything, but the unapplied migrations will take care of that later. And for now, it's not hurting anything. So, but the server is still running. It still works. And I think we can go take a look at the result over on this URL here. So let's do that. And there it is. This web server that's running in my terminal is actually serving up this site here. And it contains some links to the documentation. But basically, that means that this installation of Django worked. And there's automatic hot code reloading, which we haven't touched any code. So, but once we do touch the code, it'll make it very convenient to change the app and retest the app. And now we're gonna create the polls application, which is the sample application we're gonna follow along and make. Okay, we're gonna use a utility that automated. So each application. So we have a project apparently. But within a project, you can have multiple applications, and we're gonna create an application within this project, and the project is Django tut, as far as I understand. So, and there's a command for you to generate the directory of the project, and we're gonna use that, and that command is python manage.py start app command. It's the start app command, and we're gonna start an app called polls. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna shut down the server now using Control-C, and I'm gonna type this command: python manage.py start app and then polls. I think it did it. It didn't tell me anything, but it did create this polls directory. So, which matches up with what the tutorial is telling me. It's gonna create this polls directory, and it's gonna contain these things. Okay. It looks like another 6 files, and also a migrations folder. Okay, and now we're supposed to write our first view. A view, as far as I understand, is it's some Python code that serves up some HTTP response, which is to say serves up like usually a web page, although there are some exceptions to that. Like if you go to a certain URL, that it will ask a certain piece of Python code, a certain view more specifically, to tell it what to render on this page, and we're gonna make one of those views. So we're gonna open up this file called polls/views. It's this one, and then we're gonna change the contents to be like that. This shortcuts import render thing, we are not really using it, but I'm gonna leave it there just in case, and I'm gonna type up. I know that I could just copy and paste this, but when I'm learning something, I prefer to type out things by hand, especially if it's new to me. And that way I can get the code into my fingers, into my hands, so to speak, and it helps me with sort of ingesting the information and remembering it. So I'm going to return a HTTP response, and I'm going to put some string. I don't care to type that much, so I'm just going to write hello world and stop at there. And I think what this is going to do is put hello world onto the web page. This is the simplest view possible in Django, but in order to get it to call the view, we actually need to wire up the URL router, which doesn't even exist, and we have to create that file under the polls directory. So let's do that. So under the polls directory, I'm gonna make a new file and call it urls.py. Yep. So this is a new file that I've just created here, and I'm gonna put this code in here verbatim. Okay, so from the Django.urls module, we're gonna import a function called path, and then from that we're gonna import views. So that's just importing whatever this views created, we're importing from it. I think that means basically this index function. We have access to it now. Yeah. So when we're referencing views.index, it's gonna reference this function over here. And then we're gonna set up URL patterns, which is a list of, I would think, URL patterns. And I know the tutorial uses single quotes. I have a habit of using double quotes, and I haven't bothered to change that habit, so I'm just gonna use double quote. I don't care what you use. Okay. Okay, so it's saying this is still not enough. I have created these URL patterns, but we actually need to wire it up at the top level as well. So at the top level, or at the top level, there's inside the Django tut directory, or if you follow the tutorial, it would be my site. There's another URLs folder, and we actually need to go in here and wire this up. I need to connect the stuff we made in polls/URLs, and we need to connect it up here by putting in another path definition here in polls inside their URL patterns. So it's like a nested URL patterns within another URL patterns. Okay, so I think this include is basically referencing the one in here, and say if the URL we type here starts with polls, then we're gonna make use of this one, the URLs that's nested within the polls project. And this include function, where does it come from? It comes from here, so I need to add this include to the imports. Okay, it talks about that here. So yeah, this include function seems to do a little bit of magic to take this path and sort of stick it in here in a sense. And now we're ready to run the server again and see if those changes worked. So python manage.py run server. We still have these unapplied migrations. We're still not going to worry about it for now. But now we're going to go to this URL. Let's open it in a new tab, which is I guess we could have typed it here, and we get hello world, so things worked. This localhost or 127.0.0.1, they mean the same thing. They're interchangeable. Localhost might be easier to remember. And then when we do /polls, then we hit this URL pattern, which in turn allows Django to then refer to the URLs here, which is inside this file. And then this is saying, okay, if I'm at the top level of /polls, there's nothing after /polls, then we're gonna use views.index, and the name of this route is called index. So views.index then goes into here, goes into the views file, and calls this index function. And that's how we got this hello world returned back to Django, and Django took the hello world string and send it to the server. Send it to the browser. Okay, and this is more information about the path function that we are using to define our routes. But basically the first argument is the route, which is a pattern, and if it's empty string, that just means nothing. But if it's like a string with a slash, then it actually matches a part of the URL that the user types into the browser address bar. So this gets matched up in here. That activates the second thing, which is the argument called view, and a view is a locator for a specific view, which eventually ends up being some Python function that actually returns an HTTP response. Okay, so that was the part one of the tutorial. I will do the next part in a separate video. If you're interested in continuing with this series, then I will see you there.